We need it. We're living off the investments our parents and grandparents made a generation or two ago.
With or without bipartisan support, one-on-one with Valley Congressman Jim Costa, why he says the time is now to pass President Biden's multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. Does that include the Valley's high-speed rail? Costa also addresses the chaos on the border.
The bottom line at the end of the day is this is not a man who is competent to run the state of California.
Unfiltered and raw, Fresno County District Attorney unleashes on Governor Newsom his nomination for State Attorney General, and LA County's DA George Gascon, my exclusive with Lisa Smitkamp. Plus, breaking the silence and bringing awareness and resolution to the unspeakable hate and violence against our Asian community. Our panel of Asian American politicians and activists dive into a disturbing trend plaguing our communities over the last year. Welcome to Sunday. It's KC24, Sunday Morning Matters.
Now, from your local election headquarters, KC24, this is Sunday Morning Matters with your host, Alexan Balakian.
And good Sunday morning to you. I'm Alexan Balakian. Thank you for joining us, and please join the conversation on Twitter and Facebook at Real Alexan. Use the hashtag Sunday Morning Matters. Along the way, the city of Parlier facing big questions after a big shakeup in their police department. The mayor, Alma Beltran, will join me exclusively. But first, taking a stand against the hate, violence, and as Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer put it, the cowards.
From the city of Fresno and from my office, we won't tolerate hate in our community, regardless of who that hate is demonstrated against. Quite frankly, people who commit hate crimes are people who are cowards.
But much more than denouncing hate, really trying to make sure that this is much more than a symbolic gesture.
On Tuesday, the city of Fresno says enough is enough. They are taking action to combat the unspeakable violence and hate against our Asian American Pacific Islander community. Mayor Dyer pledging his administration will implement an Office of Community Affairs, which will act as a liaison with the Asian community to create safer places and encouragement for Asian Americans to report hate crimes. Many of us have seen the disturbing videos of violence and hate against our AAPI communities in the Central Valley and across the country, most notably the mass shooting in Atlanta where 6 Asian women were killed. Fresno's resolution taking shape this week during the City Council meeting as Asian Americans make up Fresno's second largest community of color. Here are just a few of the attacks in Fresno. March 2020. Sang Bunzi was buying diapers at a Fresno store when a woman told her to move out of my way and then used a racial slur. Also March of 2020, a Laotian family's car vandalized with the F word, Asians and coronavirus written on it. February 17, 2021, a Laotian woman was threatened in the Target parking lot at River Park when a man pointed a gun at her. Well, Mayor Dyer is pledging tangible action. So how can we achieve that? And how did we get to this point? The unspeakable racism and hatred. We have put together an exclusive panel this week to bring awareness and hopefully bring some real healing in our community. We have former Valley Democratic Congressman from District 21, T.J. Cox, whose father immigrated from China and his mom from the Philippines. Also, California U.S. Senate candidate and Sunnyside High School graduate Elizabeth Heng is with us, the daughter of Chinese-Cambodian immigrants. Katie Mua, who helps lead the Hmong Innovating Politics organization in Fresno, and also the executive director of the Asian Business Institute and Resource Center, also former Fresno City Council member Blong Zhang. Thank you all for being with me on this critical conversation. And I want to begin with the resolution introduced by the mayor and city council this week. And Blong, I'm going to begin with you here. Why do you think it's taken this long through the pandemic and through the violence and hate to bring this to the forefront now?
Well, I think part of it is our own API community. We tend to be perceived as the model Asian American. We don't speak out as often as we should. Open-minded, we try to get along with everybody, and it takes a while for us to organize, even if it's impacting us directly. But it's not how long it is that we finally got here. to a certain point, the work is just beginning. To see our collaboration work together and work with the city council committee, the mayor's office, to get something tangible. It's not just word in writing, some things that we fought for, but actually something that we can look forward to, with some commitments from not only our city elected officials, but also our mayor in this. And we appreciate, the hard work, and Katie and her group is part of that work to be able to do this. But more importantly, the value and the importance of our elected officials, as they see that their words are extremely important and it matters to all of us, but their action are also equally important for our community, especially during this difficult time with the pandemic, but more importantly in this this anti-Asian, this xenophobia that's over our Asian American community at this time.
TJ, as we talk about this, why do you think it's taken so long? And number two, I want to get into also the conversation of how has politics fueled this? Go ahead, TJ.
Well, no, thanks very much. And Blanc brings up a great point, is that Asian cultures are very deferential. In fact, there's an Asian proverb that goes, the first man to raise his voice in an argument loses. And I can tell you, in my own Filipino family, we have lots of noisy arguments, but those are all within the family. To others, we're all taught to be very deferential. I think I probably missed a lot of those arguments, is why I probably ended up in Congress. But the fact is, how we got to this point is really because of a lack of leadership. Instead of fighting the pandemic together, we had a leader that wanted to pit one part of society against another to really deflect from his own catastrophic response to this pandemic. And that's certainly not my opinion, but that's research from a large number of organizations, universities, and so on, that found that the former president was in fact the biggest super spreader of anti-Asian sentiment and racism here in America, which is really unfortunate.
And Elizabeth, I'll come to you. Denouncing the violence, obviously one thing, and I'll add this. You heard what TJ had to say. Elizabeth, you are pro-Trump, you are Republican. He said, and there's no denying it, the president has said, quote, the Chinese virus. The president back then said Kong flu and all these other words. Knowing that he said that, Elizabeth, and knowing your background and the community you come from, didn't that disturb you? Was politics fueling this?
And what I have to say about this is, like, what he said was insensitive, but and this cannot be he said, she said thing. It should not be political, because even individuals such as Gavin Newsom said that the coronavirus started in California at nail salons, which we know are predominantly Asian American run small businesses, right? So it's so critical when we have elected officials and what they say and how that impacts the community. And I'm glad that we are having this discussion in our country today. However, hate against Asian Americans it's been historical. It's been prior to the coronavirus, right? If we look at this historically, there's been challenges with all the way dating back to the Chinese Exclusion Act, to even in our very own backyard at the Fresno Fairgrounds, when that used to be a Japanese internment camp. And so I agree with TJ Cox and Blanc in that Asian Americans traditionally have not spoken up if in fact hate or discrimination has happened to many people in our communities. And I'm glad that that's being brought to the forefront, but I find it unfortunate that it has taken this long for people to now have this discussion, that this is not acceptable for our community.
Okay, so we're kind of talking about the root of the cause. I want to talk also about the resolution. And Katie, I'm coming to you now. The mayor promising tangible change, as you know, not just the symbolic showing of support. So what does that tangible change look like?
Yeah, and that's something that all of the partners, we made very clear when we were developing this resolution and presenting it to the city council, presenting it to the mayor, is that we don't want them to just pass a piece of paper today, that it's not about them working with us on this piece of paper. It's about what we are going to do next. And we want to work with all of the Asian American serving organizations in Fresno, and that we need their input, because HIP, I know that HIP, we don't reach every single Asian American community member in Fresno, and there's no way that HIP can be the only org working with the city to develop this, to develop solutions. And same with Blanc and Blanc at ABRIC, like we don't touch every single Asian American community here. And so we need the city to stay in communication with us. We need the city to support us in our capacity building. We need the city to fund solutions. We need the city to work with us to develop next steps and provide the resources that, will help our community feel safe, help our youth feel safe, help our elders feel seen and protected in the community. And we did list very specific ways that the city and the mayor can work with us. And some of those are providing culturally responsive ways for our community members to be connected to the city, to report incidences, to provide public safe spaces for our Asian American community members, especially our elders, women, and youth, and find resources to promote their physical and mental wellness. And then one of the other ways that they can work with our organizations is to address systemic barriers and, finding a way for us to be able to report these incidences and make sure that they're not just being reported to be documented, but they're taken seriously.
All right, we are off to a great start. We're going to get ready to continue this conversation. We're going to have our panel stick with us because coming up, our conversation continues with our panelists. Kids head back into the classroom. Could our Asian American students be a target? And our panel will share some of their horrific experiences as well. Stay with us.